You know, I've had a lot of jobs in my life. I've worn a tie and sat in a cubicle under fluorescent lights, listening to phones ring. I've flipped burgers. I've stocked shelves. But the best job I ever had, for a while anyway, was working at the cemetery. That probably sounds weird, right? People think, oh, that's so morbid, so depressing. But it really wasn't. It was peaceful. I got the job as a landscaper at the Oakwood Memorial Park after a messy layoff from an office job that was slowly killing me anyway. I needed something quiet. I needed to be outside. And Oakwood was the quietest place in the entire city. My job was simple. I was on the grounds crew. My boss, Sal, was this old-timer who had worked there for 40 years and had the kind of sun-baked, leathery skin to prove it. He handed me the keys to a John Deere mower on my first day and just pointed. "You're on the new section," he said. "Keep it clean. And kid, be respectful. They're all new. You have to understand the layout. Oakwood is massive. It's split into two distinct parts. You've got the new section, which is where we were, an active cemetery. It's all manicured green lawns, modern, polished granite headstones, and those little bronze vases that flip up out of the ground. It's sad, sure. You see fresh graves every week, families huddled in black suits. You just put your head down, turn the mower off when a procession goes by, and give people their space. But the other part of the cemetery, the part I ended up loving, was the old yard. It was separated from the new section by a line of ancient, overgrown cedar trees. The old yard was from the 1800s. It was all crumbling angels, slate headstones worn smooth by a century of rain, and giant oak trees that had probably been there longer than the city itself. No one was buried there anymore. My only job in the old yard was to mow the main paths once a week, just to keep nature from completely taking it back. It was my favorite part of the day. I'd eat my lunch there, sitting on a crypt from 1888, listening to the birds. It was history. It was peace. I worked there for about 6 months, all through a long, hot summer. I fell into the rhythm of the place. The smell of cut grass and diesel. The sound of the wind in the pines. The quiet, respectful nod to the other groundskeepers. And of course, the regulars. Every cemetery has them. The widows and widowers who come every single day, like clockwork. There was a woman who would bring a folding chair and read to her husband's grave for an hour. There was an elderly man who would polish his wife's headstone every Sunday. They were just part of the landscape. And then there was Mr. Abernathy. I noticed him my first week. He was different. He wasn't a regular in the new section. He was an old yard guy. Every single day, Monday through Friday, a black Lexus would pull up the service road at exactly 3:15 p.m. This man, Abernathy, would get out. He was tall, thin, probably in his late 50s. Always wore a perfectly tailored suit, even in the 90-degree heat. He never carried flowers. He never carried anything except a locked briefcase he held tight to his side. He would walk at a brisk, determined pace deep into the old yard to a section that was almost completely forgotten. He'd stop at a very specific, very old grave. It was a simple, tilted slate marker. I looked at it once. The name was Josephine, and the date of death was 1892. Abernathy would just stand there. He wouldn't cry. He wouldn't pray. He would just stand perfectly still and stare at this 150-year-old grave for exactly 10 minutes. At 3:25 p.m., he would turn, walk back to his Lexus, and drive away. It was weird. I mean, really weird. I asked Sal about it. "Oh, him?" Sal grunted, not even looking up from the mower engine he was fixing. "Abernathy. Been doing it for a year, maybe more. long as I can remember. Is it family? I asked. Hell if I know, kid. That grave's a pauper's grave. Josephine, probably a farm girl. Abernathy's a lawyer or a banker. Lives in that rich neighborhood over on the hill. Rich folks are weird. Just let him be. So I did. He was just another quirk of the job. He'd stare at his old grave. I'd mow the paths, and the world would keep turning. This went on all summer. Then, in late August, we had a brutal heat wave. No rain for 3 weeks. The whole city was brown and crispy. The new section was fine, of course. We had sprinklers. But the old yard, it was dry as a bone. I was taking my weed whacker through the old yard, trimming the edges of the path when I passed Josephine's grave. Abernathy wasn't there yet. It was too early. And I noticed something. The ground was soft. I stopped. I pushed my boot against the grass, right next to the headstone. The earth gave way with a soft, wet hiss. It was like stepping on a sponge. My first thought was broken pipe, but there was no plumbing in the old yard. It hadn't rained in weeks. Every other square inch of that place was baked hard, like concrete. But this one spot, maybe a 6 by 4 foot rectangle, right next to this ancient grave, was damp. I knelt down. The grass looked fine, but when I pushed my fingers through the blades, I could feel that the sod was loose. It wasn't rooted. I could have peeled it back like a carpet. And that's when I smelled it. It wasn't the smell of damp earth. It was chemical, sharp, like bleach or garden lime. It was faint, but it was enough to make my nose wrinkle. I stood up fast. A cold feeling washed over me, despite the heat. This was just wrong. I'm not a nosy guy, but I am a landscaper. And this was a landscaping problem. I went and got Sal. Hey Sal, you gotta see this. The ground by that 1890s grave is all weird. Sal sighed, the sigh of a man who has been asked too many questions by a new guy. He shuffled over with me. He kicked the ground with his boot. Huh, he said. It's soft, right? And it smells like chemicals. Sal kicked it again. Ground sinks, kid. It's a cemetery. You got gophers, you got groundhogs, you got, you know. He gestured vaguely. Things collapsing, caskets, vaults. It's an old grave. It just settled. But it's wet, so. And what's that smell? Probably some kid dumping something. Or the lime. We use lime sometimes for, you know, smells. He shrugged, already turning to walk away. Don't worry about it. It's not our problem unless a hole opens up. Just mow around it. I felt stupid. Of course, Sal had been here 40 years. He knew it was just a sinking grave. But it bothered me. It bothered me because I'm a landscaper. I know sod, and the sod that was laid over that soft patch. It was old, yeah, but it had been relaid. I could see the seams clear as day now that I was looking for them. Someone had cut this patch of sod out, dug underneath, and then put the sod back very, very carefully. And it bothered me because at 3:15 p.m., Mr. Abernathy showed up, and his routine changed. He didn't just stand there. He paced. He walked around the soft patch, his hands clenched at his sides. He kept looking over his shoulder, back towards the service road. He looked agitated, angry. I was mowing in the new section, a good 200 yards away, but I could see him. I shut the mower off, pretending to check the engine. I watched him. He saw me. He stopped pacing. He stared right at me. And then, in a sudden, shocking burst of motion, he kicked the old slate headstone. He kicked it so hard, I heard the thud from where I was. Then he spun around, marched to his car, and peeled out, spitting gravel. My blood ran cold. I avoided the old yard for the next week. I let the paths get a little shaggy. I didn't want to be there. I had this awful, crawling feeling that I had stumbled into something, that I had seen something I wasn't supposed to. Abernathy didn't show up at all that week. The black Lexus was gone. The heat wave finally broke. A big thunderstorm rolled in. We were all working late, trying to clean up fallen branches in the new section before a big funeral the next day. It was getting dark, that gray, misty twilight after a hard rain. Sal and the rest of the crew had already left. I was just finishing up loading a wheelbarrow when I saw a car on the service road. It was the black Lexus. My heart jumped into my throat. It was almost 8 p.m. Abernathy never came this late. I didn't even think. I just hid. I ducked behind this massive, gaudy mausoleum. I held my breath. Abernathy got out of his car, but he didn't go towards the old yard. He walked right into the new section. He was still in his suit, but it was rumpled. He was carrying a folded lawn chair. He walked with purpose, right past the row of fresh burials, right past the little flags marking new plots. He stopped at a patch of bare, muddy earth. A brand new plot, not even sodded yet. Just a rectangle of turned over dirt. It was plot C-47. I knew because I had just been cleaning a branch off the plot next to it. Mr. Abernathy carefully unfolded his lawn chair. He opened it, set it up on the grass facing the new, empty, muddy plot. He sat down. He pulled a cigarette from his jacket, lit it, and just sat there. He sat in the dark, in the rain, staring at a patch of empty dirt. I watched him for an hour. I was cold, I was wet, and I was terrified. This wasn't grief. This was something else. This was a vigil. But for what? Finally, he stood up, folded his chair, and left. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't get the image out of my head. The man, the chair, the empty grave. The next day, I was shaking. I got to work early, before Sal. I went straight to the office, to the big, leather-bound books where they kept the burial records. I'm not allowed in there, but the door was unlocked. I opened the log for the new section. I flipped to plot C-47. There was an entry, a new one in fresh blue ink. Plot C-47, reserved, Abernathy. My heart hammered. Reserved. That's what he was watching. His reserved plot, but why? I spent the rest of the day in a daze. I was mowing, but I wasn't there. I was thinking about the soft ground, the chemical smell, the relaid sod, the man in the suit. Then, 2 days later, everything clicked. In the most horrible way possible. I came into work, and the new section was buzzing. Not with mowers, with people. There was a funeral, a big one, and it was at plot C-47. There was a casket suspended over the hole. There were flowers. There were maybe 50 people, all in black. And there, at the front, was Mr. Abernathy. His face was a mask of perfect, tragic grief. I kept my distance, trimming hedges, listening. A police car was there. 2 officers, standing respectfully at the back. Sal came up next to me, holding a rake. He took his hat off. Sad business, he mumbled. What happened? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. That's his wife, Sal said, nodding towards the casket. Eliza Abernathy. Been missing for weeks. You probably saw it on the news. Lived right over on the hill. The name hit me like a punch. Eliza Abernathy. I had seen it. The missing flyers stapled to telephone poles. vanished from her home. They found her? I asked. Yeah, Sal said, lowering his voice. Found her body 2 days ago. Up in the state park. Hikers. Police are saying. Exposure. A tragic accident. They think she got lost. Maybe? Maybe took her own life. Awful. I looked at Abernathy, sobbing into a handkerchief. I looked at the police officers, their faces grim. And I thought about the soft ground in the old yard. I thought about the chemical smell. I thought about the relaid sod. I thought about Abernathy kicking the 1890s grave in a rage, the day he saw me looking at his handiwork. My hands started to shake so badly, I dropped the shears. He killed her. He killed her, and he buried her. He's a rich man. He lives on the hill. He probably buried her in his own backyard, just like in the movies. But the old yard, why? And I realized I was the problem. Or Sal. Or someone. Maybe the police were suspicious. Maybe they were going to search his property. He couldn't leave her there. So he dug her up. He panicked. And he moved her. He moved her to the one place in the world no one would ever think to look for a fresh body. He moved her to a 150-year-old forgotten grave in a historic cemetery. He cut the sod, he dug the hole, he put her in, and he put the sod back. He used lime to cover the smell. It was a perfect, temporary hiding spot. Until I came along. Until I noticed the soft ground. Until I brought Sal over. I can only imagine the panic he must have felt. He saw me. He knew his spot was compromised. So he had to move her again. He dug her up from the old yard in the middle of the night. He drove her to the state park. He staged her body. He made it look like an accident. He discovered her. He called the police, faking the tragic story. And then he bought a plot. He gave his wife a proper burial, in plain sight, surrounded by police officers and grieving friends. The man I saw sitting in the rain, staring at the empty plot. He wasn't grieving. He was waiting. He was guarding the spot. He was making sure I didn't come by, that I didn't get curious about the new hole being dug. He was waiting for the body to arrive. The funeral ended. The crowd dispersed. Abernathy was the last to leave. He was walking back to his Lexus, the same one he always drove. I was just frozen. I was standing by the equipment shed. He had to walk right past me. He saw me. He stopped. I couldn't breathe. I was standing there, holding a rake, my knuckles white. My whole body was screaming, murder. He looked at me. His eyes were red from crying, but they weren't sad. They were cold. As cold as the polished granite all around us. He knew. He knew I'd been watching the old yard. He knew I'd seen him at the new section. He knew I knew. He didn't say anything. He just tilted his head. A small, almost curious gesture. Then he reached into his jacket, and for a second, I thought he was going to pull out a gun. He just pulled out his handkerchief. He dabbed his eyes, and then he raised his hand, and he gave me a slow, deliberate wave, a little wiggle of his fingers. It was a thank you. It was an I see you. It was a we share this secret now. He got in his car and drove away. I quit the next day. I told Sal my allergies were too bad. I couldn't handle the grass. I went back there once a year later. I just had to see. I walked to the old yard, to Josephine's grave. The ground was perfect. It was firm. The sod was seamless. You would never, ever know. The chemical smell was long gone, washed away by the rain. I walked over to the new section. To plot C-47, there was a new headstone. Eliza Abernathy, beloved wife. It was massive, polished black marble, and it was covered in fresh flowers. I heard a car on the service road, the crunch of gravel. I didn't even have to look. I just turned and walked away as fast as I could. I knew who it was, and I knew he was watching. When you're 20 and taking a gap year to find yourself, which is code for, I failed 2 classes and my parents are ticked. You take whatever job you can get. And the job I got was weird. I was the night attendant at the St. Jude Funeral Home and Cemetery. It sounds fancy. It wasn't. It was this rambling old brick building on the edge of town. 1 part funeral home, 1 part cemetery office. And my job, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., was basically to be a warm body. I sat at a big, ancient mahogany desk in the lobby. I had to buzz in the transport teams, the guys who drive the windowless vans, who go to hospitals and nursing homes at 3 a.m. to, pick up the new arrivals. My job was to log the guest in the big book, point them to the refrigeration unit in the back, and then go back to my microeconomics homework. For the first few months, it was the easiest, most boring job in the world. And the creepiest, but not in the way you'd think. It wasn't ghosts. It was the silence. You don't know real silence until you've sat in a funeral home at 3:30 in the morning. The only sounds were the hum of the massive floral coolers, the buzz of the old clock on the wall, and every so often, the key chunk of the refrigeration units in the basement. The only people I ever saw were the transport guys, and most of them were fine. They were old, they were tired, they were respectful. Couple of guys, Jim and Ray, were my regulars. They worked for the county. They'd nod, sign the book, say, "Quiet night, Chloe," and be gone in 5 minutes. I'd been working there about 3 months when they started. The buzz at the back door went off. It was 2 a.m. I went to the security monitor. It wasn't Jim and Ray. It was a new van, black, no logo. And the 2 guys standing on the doorstep, they were different. They were young, maybe mid-20s. And they were dressed. I'm talking full-on. Hot Topic at the mall, late 90s goth. Black trench coats, silver jewelry, spiky black hair. One of them was tall and skinny, with a chain on his wallet. The other was shorter, built like a fire hydrant, and had these intense, staring eyes. I buzzed them in. The tall one, Rick, did all the talking. The short one, Donnie, just vibrated. He stared at everything. Rick said, sliding the logbook over. "Newbies. We're with Elysian Fields Transport, specialty service." He smelled like cloves and stale cigarette smoke. "Okay," I said, just wanting this to be over. "You have an arrival?" "Oh yeah," Rick laughed. A high, barking laugh. "We got a real special one. Right, Donnie?" Donnie just grunted, his eyes scanning the lobby, lingering on the thick velvet curtains. They wheeled their gurney in. It had a black, heavy-duty bag on it. They were rough with it, not like Jim and Ray, who treated every arrival with this gentle care. Rick and Donnie just shoved it, and when the wheel caught on the rug, Rick kicked it. "So," Rick said, leaning way too close over the desk, "this is it, huh? This is your domain. I just work here," I said, leaning back. "Must be creepy all alone. You ever get scared, Chloe?" My blood went cold. My name tag. He was reading my name tag. "Don't you love the vibe?" Donnie spoke for the first time. His voice was a low growl. "The energy in here, it's thick, right?" Rick laughed again. It's like Charged. You ever see that new vampire movie? The one? Never mind. Look, where's the cold box? I just pointed. Down the hall. Last door on the left. They took forever. I could hear them down the hall, laughing. Not quiet, respectful laughing. Loud, obnoxious cackles. It was unprofessional. It was wrong. They finally left, with Rick giving me a weird little salute. See you soon, Chloe, real soon. I locked the door behind them and put the chain on. I told my boss, Mr. Henderson, the next day. Oh, the Elysian Fields guys? He said, sighing. They're a new contracted service. The county is outsourcing. They're a bit theatrical. Just be polite, Chloe. Don't engage. They're harmless. Harmless. They came back. Twice. Each time it was worse. They'd bring me gifts. A can of Monster energy drink, which I dumped as soon as they left. A stick of that weird, sweet-smelling incense. To cleanse the aura, Chloe, Donnie had whispered. They asked questions. So like, what's the oldest grave out there? In the cemetery? Do you guys, like, lock the mausoleums? Ever just, like, lie in one of the caskets? You know, to see what it feels like? I just gave them one-word answers. I don't know. Yes, no. They just made my skin crawl. They were bad news. The kind of guys from high school who were way too into magic tricks and lighting fires in the woods. But I needed the job, so I just endured. Then, that night happened. It was a Tuesday. It was raining. One of those cold, miserable, early winter nights. The phone rang at 3 a.m. It was Rick. Chloe. Hey, we got a problem. What are you? Why are you calling me? I snapped. The paperwork. It's screwed. Like royally screwed. Wrong date of death. The hospital. They messed it up. We can't log this guy. I heard Donnie in the background. Just tell her. Tell her. Look, Rick said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We're 2 minutes out. But we can't. We can't log this. Our boss will literally kill us. The refrigerated units. They're full tonight, right? I heard you had a rush from the nursing home. He was right. Jim and Ray had already been by. Twice. The nursing home on the hill had a bad flu outbreak. Yeah, I said, my stomach tightening. We're full. So, what do you want me to do? You can't come here. No. Just hear me out. We just need to store it for like 2 hours, tops. Just until the records office opens at 5 a.m. and we can get the paperwork fixed. Store it where? Rick, I can't. The old mausoleum, he said, talking fast. The one at the back of the cemetery. The one you said was locked. You have a key, right? It's cold in there. It's stone. It'll be fine for 2 hours. Absolutely not. I can't. I'll be fired. Chloe, listen, $200, cash, right now. Just to look the other way. We'll be in and out. No one will ever know. Please, we're drowning here. $200. That was a lot of money. That was my electricity bill and my car insurance. And I was tired. And I was stupid. Fine, I sighed. Fine, but you park on the side road, not the front. And you be fast. You hear me? You're a lifesaver, Chloe. A literal lifesaver. See you in 2. He hung up. I immediately regretted it. My heart was pounding. This was so against the rules. I grabbed the big iron key for the old crypts and a flashlight. I put on my raincoat and stepped out into the cemetery. It was dark. The cemetery at night is a different world. The headstones were like teeth. The rain was coming down in sheets. I saw their black van, lights off, parked on the service road. They got out, and they had the gurney. They were excited, too excited. They were moving fast, splashing through puddles, whispering to each other and laughing. "This is it, this is it," Donnie was chanting, almost singing. Okay, shut up, Don," Rick hissed. "Lead the way, O keeper of the keys." I didn't like this. I didn't like this at all. "It's this way," I mumbled, and led them to the oldest, biggest mausoleum on the property, the Hollingsworth Crypt. It was from the 1800s, looked like a small stone bank. The key was loud in the old lock. The door groaned open. The smell, it was just dust. Old, dry, cold dust and the metallic tongue of old, dead flowers. "Perfect," Rick whispered, his eyes wide. "It's perfect." They wheeled the gurney into the center of the small stone room. "Okay," I said, my voice shaking. "Just put it on the slab. And let's go." "I'll lock up?" "Oh no," Donnie said, stepping in front of the door. We can't just leave him. We have to prepare him." "What are you talking about?" I said. You're just storing him." Right, Rick said, trying to sound casual. But he was sweaty. "Donnie, shut up. Let's just give our friend air." And Rick, he reached down and he unzipped the body bag. My mind couldn't process it. "What are you? You're not allowed to do that. That's desecration." "It's not desecration," Donnie whispered. "If it's consecration." Rick pulled the zipper all the way down, and the body inside flinches. I saw it. The person in the bag moved. I screamed. I don't know. My whole world just went silent. It wasn't a corpse. It was a young man, my age. He was alive. He was bound with duct tape. His mouth was taped shut. His eyes were wide, and he was screaming into the tape, begging me for help. Before I could move, before I could run, Rick grabbed me. He slammed me against the cold marble wall. The flashlight clattered to the floor. You stupid bitch," Rick hissed, his face inches from mine. You weren't supposed to. We thought you were cool." "Initiation," Donnie was chanting, his voice high and crazy. "It's initiation night, a gift for the master, from a holy place." Donnie reached into his trench coat, and he didn't pull out a gun. He pulled out a knife, a long, curved, ornate dagger, the kind you see in fantasy movies. But this was real. The blade was dark, and it was sharp. What are you?" I choked out. "They're not real," Rick spat, and I realized he was talking about vampires. He was joking. "But the master is very real, and he demands a gift. He demands blood from a sacred place, a place of the dead. They weren't goths. They were cultists. And now," Rick's grip tightened on my arm, "now we need 2 gifts. He'll be so pleased." Something snapped. It was rage and terror. "No." I screamed, and I bit him. I bit his hand as hard as I could. He howled a real animal sound and let me go. Grab her, he yelled, but I was already moving. I didn't run for the door. Donnie was in the way. I ran for the victim. I grabbed the gurney and shoved it as hard as I could right into Donnie. He stumbled back, crashing into a rack of old, empty urns. They went everywhere. Run! I screamed at the guy on the gurney. I fumbled with the tape on his mouth, my fingers all stupid. Rick grabbed my hair. He pulled me back. I saw the dagger. Donnie was up. He was smiling. He raised the knife. And then, light. Blinding, holy light. The mausoleum was flooded with it. What in the... Sam Hill. A voice yelled. It was Jim and Ray. Their transport van. They had pulled up right outside. The headlights were pointed right at us. Rick and Donnie, they just froze, like vampires in a movie. Chloe? Jim yelled, his voice shaking. Chloe, is that? What's going on? Rick threw me to the ground. This is your fault, he shrieked. He grabbed Donnie. Let's go. And they ran. They didn't run for the door. They smashed one of the old stained glass windows at the back of the crypt. They just dove through it into the darkness. I was on the floor, crying, shaking. The bound man on the gurney was just whimpering. Jim and Ray, they saved us. They called the cops. The police came, sirens, statements, the victim. His name was Adam. He'd been kidnapped from a bus stop. They were going to sacrifice him. The police, they found the black van. It was stolen. They found things in it. Weird books, more knives, Polaroid pictures of other victims. They caught Rick. They found him a week later, trying to board a bus. They never found Donnie. I quit. I moved. I left that city. I enrolled in community college in a different state. I tried to forget. That was 2 years ago. It seemed like it was over. A horrible, crazy Dateline story that I had somehow survived. And then, last week, I got a letter. At my new apartment, the one nobody knows about. There was no return address. Inside, there was a Polaroid picture. It was me. It was me, sleeping. In my bed, it was taken. From inside my room. And on the bottom, in black marker, in that spiky, goth handwriting, it just said, "The master is disappointed. He's still hungry." When my marriage of 15 years finally imploded, I did what any newly divorced woman in her 40s with a mediocre settlement does. I bought the smallest, cutest house I could find in a neighborhood I probably couldn't afford. It was my sanctuary. That's what I called it. My start-over house. And the best part, the part that sold me, was the backyard. It wasn't big, but it was peaceful. It backed up against the old, quiet Memorial Hill Cemetery. There was just this low wrought iron fence, maybe 4 feet high, separating my garden from the neighbors. My friends thought I was nuts. You're going to live next to a cemetery? But I loved it. It was quiet. No one bothers you. The neighbors are very low maintenance. It was just willow trees, old headstones, and peace. My therapy in those first few months was gardening. I was reclaiming my life. I was going to plant roses. I was going to breathe. I spent hours out there, just digging in the dirt. And that's when I first saw her. I call her the Griever. There was a new grave, just on the other side of my fence, maybe 30 or 40 feet away. Fresh dirt. No headstone yet, just that little temporary metal marker. And every single morning, at 10 a.m., this woman would show up. She was my age, mid-40s, dressed in nice suburban mom clothes. She'd drive up in a clean blue Volvo, and she would just crumple. I watched her for weeks from my kitchen window. It was heartbreaking. She would weep. I mean, the kind of full-body end of the world, sobbing that just hurts to even watch. Sometimes she would talk to the grave, animated and angry. Sometimes she would just lie down on the grass next to the fresh dirt and sleep for an hour. My heart just ached for her. I was a griever, too. My divorce felt like a death. I got it. I felt connected to this shadow of a woman, just drowning in her sadness on the other side of my fence. I wanted to help, but what do? You can't just shout, "Hey, nice day," for a sob. Want some coffee? So I just let her be. I'd garden quietly when she wasn't there, and I'd watch her when she was. Then, one day, it changed. It was a hot day, July, the kind of sticky, oppressive Virginia summer hot. I was out pruning my new roses, and I was happy. For the first time in a long time. And I heard a voice. "Excuse me?" It was her, the griever. She was at my fence. I'd never seen her up close. Her eyes were wrecked, puffy red. Her hair was a mess. She looked awful. I'm so sorry," she stammered, holding on to the iron fence. "I think I'm dehydrated. I feel dizzy." "Oh my God," I said. "Of course. Don't move. Stay right there." I ran inside. I grabbed a bottle of water, a glass of ice. I even grabbed a granola bar. I was fussing. I came back out. She was clutching the fence. "Here," I said, passing the water through the bars. "Please, drink." She drank the whole bottle in one go. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was raw. "Thank you. You're Jenna, right?" I stopped. "How did you know my name?" "The mail," she said, nodding towards my mailbox. "I see it when I come. I'm Elaine." "Elaine," I repeated. "It's nice to meet you. I'm so sorry for your loss." And she just broke. She unloaded. "It's my son," she wailed, clinging to the fence like a prisoner. "My Josh, my baby, 20 years old. A car, a stupid drunk driver. He killed my boy." And I just listened. I stood there in the blazing sun for an hour, and she talked. She told me everything. About Josh. He liked video games. He was studying engineering. He had a terrible girlfriend. He loved peanut butter sandwiches. No jelly, just peanut butter. I just listened. I was a sounding board. And when she left, she thanked me. "You're so kind," she sobbed. No one listens. They just look away. I felt good. I had helped. She came back the next day. She didn't just go to the grave. She came to the fence. And she had a pie. "It's apple," she said. "A thank you for listening." So we talked. And she came back. Every day. We became fence friends. She talked. I listened. And the red flags started. They were small. So small you wouldn't even notice. It started with Josh. Josh loved gardening, she'd say, watching me prune. "He would have loved your yard." "Oh," I'd say, "that's sweet." Then it was my house. "You have such a warm home," she'd say, peering past me. I bet Josh would have felt safe here. I suppose so, I'd say, feeling weird. Then she started forgetting things. Oh, silly me, she'd say, an hour after she left. She'd be back at the fence. I think I dropped my scarf in your yard. And I'd look. And there it was, right by the fence. Oh, I'd say, here, could you just open the gate? She'd ask. My back is aching. So I'd open the gate, and now she was in my yard. She would linger. She'd sit in my lawn chair. She'd touch my flowers. So pretty, she'd murmur. Josh loved yellow. I couldn't get her to leave. I'd say, well, Elaine, I have to go make dinner. And she'd just nod and stare at my house. Dinner, she'd say. Yes. Josh always got hungry at 5. The grief wasn't sad anymore. It was obsessive. It was angry. She wasn't crying at the grave anymore. She was spending all her time at my fence, talking at me. Finally, I had to say something. Elaine, I said gently. We were in my yard. She had forgotten her trowel. Elaine, have you talked to anyone? You know, professionally? A grief counselor? The change was instant. The sad Elaine mask just dropped. Her face went cold and hard. A therapist? She hissed. Her voice wasn't raw. It was sharp. Why? So they can drug me? So they can make me forget him? Is that what you want, Jenna? You want me to forget Josh? The venom shocked me. No, I stammered. I just meant... I know what you meant, she spat. She threw the trowel down. You're just like all the others. And she stormed off. Through my gate. She slammed it shut. I was rattled. I locked the gate. I put a chain on it. I felt awful and relieved. That night, I woke up. It was late. 3 a.m., I heard a sound. Not a creak. Not a bump. It was the clink of a jar and the scrape of a knife. I froze. Burglar. I grabbed the Little League bat I keep under my bed. I crept down the stairs. The light was on. In my kitchen. Oh, God. I rounded the corner. And Elaine was there. She was in my kitchen. In her pajamas. A pink robe. She was standing at my kitchen island. She was making a sandwich. She looked up and smiled. Oh, good, she said. Her voice was bright and chipper. You're up. I couldn't find the jelly. My mind just stopped. The bat fell out of my hand. It clattered on the floor. Elaine? I whispered. How? How did you get in here? The back door, she said, shrugging, like it was the most normal thing in the world. You left it unlocked. I didn't, I breathed. I locked it. I know I did. She frowned. She licked the peanut butter off the knife. Well, Josh always liked peanut butter. No jelly. He said jelly was too sweet. And I screamed, "Get out of my house." Her face just crumbled. But it wasn't sadness. It was rage. Her eyes went black. He likes you, she shrieked. He told me. He said you were nice. He said you could be his new mom. Why are you being so mean to him? She threw the plate. It shattered against the wall. I ran. I scrambled back upstairs. I locked my bedroom door. I fumbled for my phone. And she was pounding on the door. Pounding. Let me in. Josh wants to talk to you. Josh is lonely. Don't you understand? He's so lonely. I dialed 911. The cops came. It took 3 of them to get her out of my house. She bit one of them. They took her away for a psychiatric hold. I was a wreck. I installed deadbolts on everything. I got a security system. I didn't go in my backyard for a week. I thought it was over. She was getting help, right? It was yesterday. I was upstairs, in my bedroom. I looked out the window at the cemetery, and a car was pulling up. The blue Volvo. Elaine got out, and a man got out. He was big, a large man, the husband. They walked to Josh's grave. They stood there, and they both just turned and looked right at my house, right at my window. Elaine lifted her hand, and she pointed at me. The husband just nodded. My phone buzzed. On my nightstand, a text from an unknown number. I opened it. It just said, "Jenna, this is Mark, Elaine's husband." She told me everything. "I just want you to know, Josh was our only son, and we always get what he wants." And that's all for tonight. Remember, the most terrifying monsters are the ones that look just like us. The ones who might even live right next door. If these stories serve as a good reminder to trust your instincts, then show your support and like and subscribe. Hitting that bell means you'll get a warning before the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.